Ayes are 63, the noes are 58. The motion is agreed to. Members, we now come to the votes to the external sector, volume B5, volume 4. And the question is that... No, not yet. And the question is that vote customs, vote defence force, vote foreign affairs and trade, and vote official development assistance stand part of the schedules. Mark Mitchell, and I ask the chair of the committee to set out the major findings of your committee in relation to the estimates. Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A lot to say in such short time, but I'll give it my best shot. Mr. Chair, I wanted to speak about vote foreign affairs first and cover off very quickly what we discussed in our appropriation hearing on the committee. The first thing is, of course, the sheep farm in Saudi Arabia. I just want to say from my own observations, Mr. Chair, from my own time up in the Middle East, is that I was very interested to watch a stock handling facility, a big stock handling facility that was built in Basaso, and it was sponsored by the Qatari government. That's right. And it was built so that they could the Puntland, state of Puntland, part of Somalia, on the Horn of Africa, could start trading it with livestock to Saudi Arabia because of the size of the market and the demand there. And it helped drive up their GDP. It was a very good project. I also want to state that mutton and lamb is a big part of the diet in the Middle East. It's not something new. It's not like we're just taking sheep into the Middle East for the first time. They are there. The markets in Basra in southern Iraq used to feed a good part of the Middle East prior to the Second War, and people would travel from all over the Middle East to go to the markets and the stockyards in Basra to buy mutton. We were told that no additional funds have been provided to New Zealand Trade and Enterprise to actually fund the agri-hub there, and there's about 30 New Zealand businesses that are providing goods and services that are connected to the agri-business hub. This is a big business. This has a lot of potential for New Zealand, Mr. Speaker, and we own a lot of the IP, the knowledge, the know-how to actually create a real vibrant business in the Middle East. We spoke about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. We asked for an update on that. The agreement is an important one for New Zealand. It involves 40% of New Zealand's trade in goods and services, and it involves 5 of New Zealand's top 10 trading partners. We know that once the agreement is signed by all parties, it will go through New Zealand's domestic approval processes, and in the course of which the agreement and its associated national interest analysis will come before our committee, will come before the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Select Committee. If changes are required to New Zealand's domestic legislation, Parliament will need to pass them before ratification of the treaty. We spoke about the Asian relationship. 2015 is the 40th anniversary of New Zealand's diplomatic relations with ASEAN, and New Zealand will host 31 celebratory events across 10 Asian capitals. We talked about Niue. The Minister spoke about Niue. He highlighted that since 2010, New Zealand has focused its support to Niue on the development of its tourism industry, and at the request of the country's Premier and Government, we heard that Niue's visitor numbers have increased considerably, and that this has been a very, very successful initiative that's been supported by New Zealand. We asked the Minister about our seat on the United Nations Security Council, of which I personally am very proud to see him now sitting in the President's seat, and I want to acknowledge the work that all our ambassadors, for example, Sir Jim Macleay, who we spoke to on the weekend, and MFAT, and being so successful in securing us a seat on that New Zealand Security Council. We have begun our month-long presidency. In that time, we're going to host an open debate in the Council on the 30th of July, in which countries from outside the Council can participate. This is important, this is significant, because this is one of the points that we lobbied on in trying to gain support to actually win that seat on the Security Council. They're going to be talking about security challenges facing small island developing states. Although such states make up about 1/4 of the membership of the United Nations, only 3 of them have ever served on the Security Council. New Zealand wants to provide an opportunity for the wider group to be heard on the Council. New Zealand, we also plan an informal closed dialogue on reform of the Security Council to make it more accountable and more transparent, and there's going to be a fair bit of focus around the use of the veto. The Minister spoke briefly about the Middle East peace process, and he highlighted the fact that having a seat on the United Nations Security Council will affect its involvement, our involvement in the Middle East process, and there is general consensus that after the Israeli elections and the formation of its government, the Security Council talks on Iran also need to be concluded before the Middle East process can be addressed. There may be an opportunity in August or September to consider the peace process, and New Zealand will be alert to playing an active role in the process on which the international community agrees urgent action is needed. So you can see that, the Minister and MFAT are going to be very active on the Security Council.
The Honourable Phil Goff.